Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Melbourne, Australia. We currently conduct these streams mainly on Wednesday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website at MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Hi and welcome to MELfeed.video transmission 24 for the 1st of August 2018, and this is the first transmission that we're actually doing from our new place in Echuca, and I'm sitting in my temporary office at the moment. We're going to have a permanent one built in the backyard in the near future, so we'll be able to watch progress on that as things progress. But for now, we go into our first program, NAT Chat, and I'll see you again later in the evening.
Welcome to NAT Chat. My name is Paul Spanos, and today we have Harry Malos, the clinical counselor in psychology, and the topic today is the ABC framework. Harry, welcome back to our program. And what is ABC framework? How we can make the viewers sort of understand that?
The ABC framework has been developed by a psychologist in the early 20th century, 21st century, and later on more developed by Albert Ellis. Mm-hmm. And although Albert Ellis developed what the ABC framework entails, mm-hmm. it has been borrowed mm-hmm. from Greek philosophy back in the 2,000 years ago, Stoic philosophy. Okay. And the premise of ABC is that the people are not disturbed by the event, which represent A, mm-hmm. but by the views in which they take the event. This is what the philosopher Epictetus said 2,000 years ago. And Albert Ellis borrowed that comment and developed his ABC framework, which we know in modern psychology today.
That means somehow when the event happens, it triggers something in me, and this is what is the important for my behavior, isn't it? Yeah. This is what determines my behavior.
That's right. The way we view it, the way we think about it, what we believe about the event is partly the consequence.
Okay.
So that's where we get ABC. A represents the activating event.
Okay.
B represents the behavior and the belief to the event.
Okay.
And C represents the consequences of such behavior and belief.
That means learning the ABC framework, it helps me to see my own behavior to the events that happens around me, isn't it?
Yes, it becomes you get an awareness of what's causing the consequences.
Okay.
So you know how it works. You know how the formula works.
So in this case, I can be more receptive and accept my own behavior.
Yes. Well, you have to understand your behavior.
Yes.
How it's influenced, and it's influenced by the way you think about it.
Yeah. Because for example, I can just walk into a supermarket or something, and then I see something in front of me, or I hear something, and all of a sudden my behavior becomes irrational for some reason.
That's right. That's right. And there's a nice little story which goes by two people viewing a great big wave in the ocean.
Okay.
One has not been familiar with waves and open ocean. Mm-hmm. The other is a surfer.
Yes.
Both people look at the event. One looks at it fearfully.
Yes.
The other one looks at it and sees only pleasure.
Okay.
But it's the same event viewed differently, which creates the consequence.
That's right. That means by understanding the framework, I understand better what triggers fears, anxieties, even depression.
Yeah, all of those things are helpful when we know that we're thinking about an event that occurred in a particular way.
Okay.
Yeah, and the saying that I have is that the greater tragedy in life is not what happens to you, but how you react to what happens to you. Yeah.
In other words, there is a cognitive thinking in our minds that collects things throughout our history or something, our story.
Yeah.
And then we react to events, and that reaction is very, very crucial. That's what the framework deals with.
Yes, and it's interesting that you mentioned, Paul, the cognitive side of it, because the ABC framework is a model that is used in CBT therapy, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. It's a tool that's used in that kind of therapy, where it challenges. In order for people to get better, it challenges how they view the events of the world and the experiences that they had.
In your experience with dealing with people in everyday life, how do you think this helps understanding their situation?
Well, it understands by understanding that it's not the event alone that causes us to feel sad. It causes us to feel anxious and fearful and reserved. It's not the event alone.
That means if I'm the one who reacts irrationally in such a condition, I usually blame the event initially, isn't it? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, how you view the event.
How I view the event.
How you view the event. That's what the ABC framework is. In the ABC framework, it suggests that A doesn't cause C. In other words, the activating event doesn't cause the consequences. Okay. It's B that causes the consequences, not A.
So the framework helps me to understand, to include my behavior to the event, not just the event in itself.
Yes, to consider your belief and your behavior, because that's ultimately what causes the consequence.
Because usually if I take my behavior out, I always blame the event for the consequences.
Or your belief, yes, correct. Remember the theory of the ocean and the waves?
Yes.
One sees it and believes as to be pleasure, the other sees nothing but fear.
Okay.
So is the event causing the consequences or what we think of it?
What we think of it, of course. Yes. Yeah. So, so the person who fears the waves, then, if it comes to you or to somebody for help, the framework is going to point what in his behavior? His fears.
It's going to point out that what they think about the event, such as what it represents to them, is possibly a way to challenge their way of thinking in order not to create the consequences.
Possibly. I was just, I did have an experience with a big wave, to be honest with you.
Did you?
Yes, when I went to the ocean and I knew I was a good swimmer, and I was, trying to play the hero, and all of a sudden the whole wave really turned me upside down, and I was just about to drown myself.
Yeah.
And that created a lot of cautious next to me. Next time I'm going to see the big wave.
Yeah.
And I will never go into do surfing myself.
Yeah.
How this is going to, that means this framework is going to indicate to me what triggers my fears, isn't it?
Yeah, well, when you go to the ocean next time, you will see a wave and your thought pattern would be danger, danger, and that thought pattern will create the consequence of fear, not the actual wave itself again.
Very interesting. We'll come back in a few moments. Thank you for being with us. Stay with us. We're going to continue with this ABC framework talk.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motorcar. Enjoy.
Wednesday at 10 p.m. on MELfeed.video.
It was a dark and stormy night in a bar over a strawberry margarita. Steve and Jacqueline had time to kill, so they decided to slaughter it. The result, 15 fabulous minutes. You be the judge.
Statistics show 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually assaulted before their 18th birthday. Help break the silence on child sexual assault. Go to bravehearts.org.au.
Welcome back to NAT Chat. We continue with the topic of ABC framework, and with us we have the clinical counselor in psychology, Harry Malos. We did touch the definition of the ABC framework.
Yes.
And we can see that there's some triggers within us in relation to events that happens, and the behavior that we have. How effective the ABC framework is, based on your experience, and if you have any example, how effective it is as a tool in your profession?
Yeah. Well, it is very effective because purely it's very simple. Okay. It isn't, a complicated theory. Mm-hmm. It is just 3 steps that occur that causes us to feel some kind of discomfort, some kind of disorder, and this continues. And this 3-step theory is a very, very simple way of looking why and how we are like that.
Okay, and just to help the audience to understand that is when they realize that they behave in a certain way on certain things, they can apply those principles on that framework.
Yes,
and understand better on this.
Yes. Well,
can I have an example, a story on this?
Sure, I can, without mentioning names, of course. When people start to challenge the way they view things, it has a huge impact on the consequences. And not so long ago, I was counselling a person who had a fear of flying. She looked at aeroplanes and perhaps have seen an accident in an airplane and was fearful of flying, and her whole life she wasn't able. She was a business person, that's all I'll say, and she could not do her job because she was afraid of flying. The view of flying itself and the event of an aeroplane accident wasn't the actual cause to the consequences of her fearing flights. It was that in this particular person, he was a single parent, and had a young child, and the thought of something occurring to her with no one having to look after the child is what was creating the fear, not actually the accident of a plane. So it was the way she or he views it that caused the consequence.
That means the flying in this case triggers the danger.
Yes.
Or the potential danger. Or the way she
Not
thought.
necessarily. The way this person believed of the event allowed this person to feel that by going through with it, that there will be no one who will look after their young child. So the view of the event was the actual problem, not the event itself.
That means in this case, she connects the event with consequences of the child losing the carer.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay. Yeah. And then, but the ABC framework helps me to understand that and see what triggers that danger, and understand that there is more to the event. It's not only just that triggers the consequences.
Exactly.
And now the consequences we're talking about is the consequences that I think of.
Yeah, the consequences are as a result of the way you think about it.
Okay.
It's if for example, if I'm at a football match, and in that football match I get injured,
Yes.
and I have a severe injury, next time I look at such an event playing football, I might look at it and say, I believe this event will cause me to have a broken leg. I believe this event will cause me to be in hospital. It's not the actual event, but you believe that you'll get hurt if you play again. And then we look at that and say, well, is that rational thinking? Is that kind of thinking helping you to live a normal life?
The way you said the example makes me think that the event and the belief system that I've got about the event exaggerates,
yes,
in a lot of different ways,
that's
the
right.
consequences.
Yes. Exaggeration of the consequences of the event. Yes, definitely.
And that inflames my behavior even more.
Exactly. It actually, MRI scans have suggested that the way we believe of the event is actually more hurtful than the event occurring itself, because the way we believe and think about it is perpetual. It continues. It continues every day. And the event has just occurred once, but the way we think about the event, the way we believe about the event, continues every day. So it's replayed every day.
Okay. And that is that we can explain this way a lot of anxieties sometimes that they occur when we are parents towards the kids, and we are overprotective sometimes,
right?
Or we're not protective enough. That all depends, isn't it?
Yeah. So fear is usually fuels anxiety.
Yes.
It's what it fears that if I don't protect my child, something wrong will go. Something wrong will happen to it. So we become overprotective. It's how we view it that causes us to be protective.
Careful. Yes, correct.
Right? So if we look at it and say they've got experiences of their own, they have to learn life as well, and me protecting them is not going to enable them to live a normal life. So we view it that way, we become less protective as the consequence.
Correct. And talking about that now, and that MRI test and the results really proves the statement that you mentioned in the previous
That's right.
segment. Can you read it again, and we close this segment and we go to the third part?
Yeah, well, Epictetus, I'm not going to repeat it exactly how he said it, maybe I'll be quick enough. And he said, people are disturbed not by the event. He said that over 2,000 years ago. People are not disturbed by the event, but by the views in which they take the event. I thought that is a very philosophical and...
but it's a reality though. It is
very
a
much
reality,
so.
proven though.
Yeah.
Harry, thank you. Please stay with us for the third segment. Thank you for being with us. We're going to continue shortly.
Australia Day means a time for reflection in one way. We're really lucky to live in such a country, and it's really an opportunity to connect with people who are really close to you and important in your life. I hope and wish for a society that truly respects everybody in every shape and form. On Australia Day, I'll be actually at the tennis, and I'll be sharing that with my friend. Doesn't get much better than that, really.
Get together on Australia Day. Go to australiaday.org.au to find out how.
I want to get the word out to blokes about a little gland called the prostate. It's only the size of a walnut, but it can cause a whole lot of grief. Prostate cancer deaths pretty much equal breast cancer deaths. The problem is, if you wait too long, it may be too late. It took one of my mates. Don't make me angry. Talk to your doctor about your prostate, and if necessary, get it checked. You'd be nuts to leave it to chance.
Go head on into the fast-paced world of roller sports.
Come on, keep up.
So tell us about your skating and your experience.
Inline Plus introduces you to the world of roller sports in all its forms.
We are actually going to catch up with 4 members of the Australian team.
Free place to skate because the surface is quite smooth.
So get your skates on,
Inline Plus.
Coming up next on MELfeed Video.
Welcome back to NAT Chat, and we continue with the subject ABC framework with Harry Malos, the clinical counselor in psychology. Harry, we continue on the same subject, and how, when I realize that I need to know more about myself, how this ABC framework can benefit my own mind thinking different about the events that are happening around me.
Yeah, well, how, I guess you're asking how the ABC framework works in order to change the consequences.
That is correct.
Because after all, we're talking about the consequences.
Yes.
And as we covered earlier, the event alone, or the event is not so much the cause of the consequences as much as how we view the event and believe about the event. So, and the consequences can be healthy or unhealthy. If we view it in a healthy way, then the consequences will be healthy. But in my line of work, it's generally that we view it in an unhealthy way, and the consequences are negative.
Okay.
So now I guess the essence of your question is, how do we use this framework to actually have healthy consequences?
Okay. Now, in this, do you touch my behavior?
We talk about your belief.
Okay.
We talk about your cognition of the event. We talk about, has your thinking about this event contributed to you feeling fearful or to you feeling anxious?
Because as you said before, my belief system really contributes to my behavior, isn't
That's
it?
right. That's
so,
right.
So you're touching those things that contribute to my behavioral pattern.
Exactly. So we would, the way we would do it is this: has the way you think about it, has it helped you?
That means, can I, okay, then in this case, can I change those triggers?
Absolutely. And the theory goes that if you have thought about it in a way that has produced unhealthy, negative emotions, we intervene on our thinking. We intervene, we dispute. We say, what evidence do I have that suggests that my way of thinking is going to be the result?
That means you challenge my own belief system that was based on so far.
Yeah, it's exactly what that is. We challenge your belief system. And we don't challenge it without any cause. We challenge it with evidence. We say it is all evidence-based. We don't just say, well, don't think that way because, it's not healthy. The alternative is evidence-based. We ask, what's the evidence? We challenge the irrational thought. We challenge the irrational belief. And if we do that, it creates a different emotional effect. And the emotional effect would be of a positive one from a negative one in relation to thinking.
That means in this case, next time I see the same event, I do not have only one trigger. I've got the second, because you explained to me, for example, what triggers my behavior, and you challenge my belief system. So, but you give me an alternative to my belief system that can help me to see alternative thinking, and then I behave differently.
It's exactly right. We dispute it. We say, now that we've realized that when you think or believe that way, it creates fear, it creates anxiety. So we know that kind of belief isn't healthy. Now, how do we change that belief? How do we make it so that the consequence is of positive? So we say, okay, what evidence do you have? We dispute the thinking process that creates the negative emotion. We dispute it with evidence. We say, well, when you think of that, does it necessarily mean that that's what happens?
That's it.
Yeah, and that's evidence-based. For people of fear of flying, for example, you would say that statistics show that flying is even safer than driving a car.
That's right.
So when we think of flying, that it is safer than driving a car, guess what happens to our fear, which is the consequence? It's reduced.
Exactly. Because I've got an alternative to my first thinking, my initial thinking that creates fear.
That's
I've got a reason to think.
Based on evidence.
Based on evidence.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So, then the ABC framework in this case works as a tool to realize what triggers my initial behavior, but at the same time gives me the opportunity to accept another belief system or reality that I never have accepted at that moment.
Yes, yes. We don't think about it that way, because if we thought about it in a positive way, we wouldn't be in a position to seek help. We wouldn't. If we look at an event in a positive way, the emotions would be healthy.
Yes.
And you wouldn't go to someone because you're in a great state of mind or because you're happy.
Okay.
You would go there if your whole life is governed by fear, and you cannot socialise, you cannot sleep, you cannot eat. So they are negative consequences.
Does this theory, and I'm going to close possibly with that, does this theory helps people with vulnerabilities?
People with vulnerabilities, I'm not quite sure.
Aged people.
Yep.
Because they don't have enough understanding, and they understand their own belief system, but you have the new generation coming up.
Yeah.
And they take over.
Yeah.
They have the authority now.
Sure. Well, we can look at, and I've worked with aged care people in the past, and a lot of their belief system is that the life now is over for them, that they're not important, that they lost their autonomy, that they lost any power of themselves. So again, we would kind of challenge that kind of thinking.
Okay.
We would say, but you have achieved so much.
Yes.
You're a success story because you've got so much that is proven that you've achieved. You have a lot of wisdom. You have a lot of experience. When you start thinking of age in that way, guess what happens about how you feel about yourself?
That's right.
Yeah.
And thank you for discussing this topic with us today, and thank you for being with us, because this way you support not only the community TV, but community TV is really the communication between the experts to the audience.
Yes.
And the audience, they have the opportunity to find out a lot of things, and in a simple way. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for your support. And we're going to call you again.
Thanks, Paul.
And to the audience, we did have an interesting topic today. Stay with us next week, the same time, for another interesting topic.
Live stream from Melbourne each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Inline Plus brought to you by Bayside Blades, Australia's inline skating specialist.
Today's show, roller figure skating, we've got the roller hockey, we've got the junior development inline hockey, And over in Adelaide, the roller derby, they up the ante as they prepare to do Skater Origin battle with Victoria next week. It's on next week's show. Stay tuned to that. It's a huge show. Enjoy.
Figure skating on ice is normally known for all the twirls and spins and jumps that they do, but on roller skating it isn't. And Tamira Russell has recently won the bronze medal at the German Cup, and she's going to tell us all about it. Tamira, what is roller figure skating?
Roller figure skating is very technical. It is still glitzer and glamour, but we do more technical items. We do the loop circle, which is the smaller circle, and then we also do the long circle, where we do pre-described figure 8 circles on the floor with intricate turns. I started skating 17 years ago, and I only choose to do the figures. I love going out on the floor and just training. You can spend hours skating doing the figures with no interruptions, no breaks, and just the actual ability to do a perfect figure is what I love about it. It felt fantastic for an Australian to get a medal at such a high quality European competition that is almost as good as Worlds. It was an unbelievable experience. I loved every second of it, and to finally get my name out into the world of skating was the best thing.
Well, roller figure skating is not just for the experts, it's for the newer skaters as well. And Tennille Jury, who's 12 years old, is going to be competing in the figure event for the first time this year.
I'm just changing my accents so I can do my lips.
So Tennille, are the figures really as difficult as they look, or are they relatively easy?
Well, figures are actually very hard to do. You need a lot of balance and technique, then you need a lot of skill.
And with the technique that's required, what's some of the basics?
You need to keep your back nice and straight, you need to have very nice arms, and you have to keep your leg nice and straight.
So when you're rolling around the figure circles, how hard is it to concentrate when there's a judge following you?
Well, you just concentrate on the figures, don't worry about anyone around you, just pretend you're practicing. That's what I mostly do.
That's a good approach. So, leading up to your first figure competition, how are you feeling?
I'm very nervous.
You're nervous? What's to be nervous about?
You know, just worried I'm going to stuff up.
And what are the judges looking for during the competition?
The judges are looking for a strong edge and good control.
Tennille, you actually compete in freestyle as well, and we've seen a lot of freestyle skating so far. What do you prefer, the figures or the freestyle?
Well, I prefer the freestyle, but still figures is actually very fun to do.
What we're going to do is we're going to do a quick warm-up. We're going to skate 2 laps forwards, pivot. Alright, off you go.
What's going on here today, Ben?
We've got one of our development classes here today. Basically, all we do is we teach the kids all the skills necessary to play hockey, and what we're trying to do is push them up through the grades so that they get interested, get excited about it, and then move on to the progressive levels. And stop by curling, which is just the reverse snowplow shape. Then we're going to go forwards again, turn around, and stop. Okay? Off you go. To the halfway line, turn around, then stop.
Are there any particular skills you look for in youngsters coming up through?
A natural ability to skate and quick learners are always good. and also having no fear. I mean, everybody falls down a couple of times, but it's more the fact of if you can get back up and keep going, the more the better. I basically got started because I want to help the sport out. So bringing the sport up, helping the little ones. Just get more speed, you start going backwards, and then put your foot out like that. Yep, bend your knees more, because you want to absorb that force. Yep.
This is so rewarding because it's, for the kids particularly, really good with social skills, teamwork. It keeps their fitness up, gets them away from the television and the computer and the internet. Okay, what's really cool about Tuesday night junior development is that it's not technically junior. Adults are more than welcome. We have several adults here. It's really good exercise, fantastic cardio. It's hilarious fun and it builds up skills.
I want you to try spinning with one toe up. Some advice, when you spin, this leg goes straight out this way.
Where's the hockey segment? It's up. I forgot the line. Where's the hockey segment? It's up. No!
Inline hockey.
Yeah.
You're gonna go.
Yeah.
Sweetie skill.
Yeah. Go.
Karen, well, the grudge match is over.
It is.
Australia v Sweden.
No, they didn't. We were just warming up.
Yeah. It's a fair bit harder than it looks, isn't it?
It is. It is very difficult. It is.
Yeah.
But it's great fun.
Yeah, good form of exercise for parents if you want to come down with the kids.
Yes.
Get down here, skate around. You'll soon know it after you've skated, and probably the next day when you wake up.
Yeah.
Stiffness.
You'll feel it, believe me.
Yeah.
You really will. But do come down. It's awesome fun. We have the best coach. We've got the best facilities at Mordialloc, and it's just so much fun. Don't miss it.
And there's junior development rinks pretty much all over Australia in most rinks. So look up your local rink and get in on some junior inline hockey. Help them out. It's a fun sport. It's great exercise, and it stops them playing things like Nintendo, etc.
And have fun.
Inline Plus. Your turn.
You're watching Inline Plus.
That'll do. After the break, the sublime skills of the roller hockey players. Adelaide Roller Derby, they've been fun for the last few weeks of the show, but now things get very serious. You're watching Inline Plus.
There's not a sport out there that is not about winning. So you've got to give yourself that drive and want to be a part of a team that wants to.
Inline Plus brought to you by Bayside Blades, Australia's inline skating specialist.
Behind every great athlete, there is a great support network. Australian Athletes with a Disability and Wheelchair Sports Australia help athletes realise their full potential.
Gonna go from 3, yes!
No matter their ability, we're there to support them. Sporting opportunities for all abilities. For more information, visit sports.org.au.
This bank is helping to save lives. Every year, 500,000 Victorians have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Food Bank Victoria works with farmers, supermarkets and manufacturers to make sure their surplus stock ends up here, to be distributed to those in need. But all of this is not enough. Right now, this bank needs interest, your interest, to support Victorians in need. If you can help, visit foodbankvictoria.org.au.
Every time we buy certified organic, we're making a choice to help our environment and build a healthier community. But it can be hard to know that what we're buying is truly organic. The Australian Certified Organic logo is only given to products after a very rigorous process. So when you see this logo, it means you can trust that there are no genetically modified foods, no animal cruelty, and no harsh synthetic pesticides used. A healthier community is always better for our future. So the next time you shop, look for this logo.
The new website for Inline Plus TV is natsport.tv/Inline Plus.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. We've got the chairman of the Australian Roller Hockey Committee, Alan. G'day Alan, welcome to the show.
G'day John.
Interesting sport, huge in Europe.
Yeah, very.
Not so well known here. What's the story with that?
It traditionally comes from South America and from Europe. Way stronger over there. They've been playing it for heaps of years. We've been playing for quite a while here, but just generally not well known.
So guys and girls participate, so it's, there are some mixed comps as well?
Yeah, in this particular competition, the senior men's division is mixed, so guys and girls playing it. In our younger divisions, it's consistently mixed, but typically in our senior divisions, the ladies have a division of their own and the men also. For our national teams to get together, we're bringing people from Perth, Melbourne, New South Wales, up in Brisbane as well, and spread across Brisbane and Townsville. So to get them all together for a training camp becomes pretty costly. Without much in the way of sponsorship, it's all borne by the players. So to have a training camp for 2 or 3 days costs the players about $400.
What do you think is the future of the sport in Australia then for roller hockey?
It's a long road to try and build the sport. I think roller skates are starting to come back a little.
Yeah.
They went out of vogue. Inline skates look pretty cool.
Sure.
But now roller skates seem to be coming back, so maybe roller hockey will pick up with right on the back of that.
There you go. So there you have it. That's roller hockey. It's looking pretty cool. Stay tuned to the show for future segments on roller hockey. Thanks for being on the show, Alan.
Thanks very much, John. Glad to be there.
Awesome. Back to the show. See you guys.
Three cheers for ourselves.
Good tournament.
We're still here at Parks Recreation Centre, and we've got a new Adelaide roller girl to introduce you to. What's your name?
My name is Roller Junkie.
Roller Junkie.
Correct.
You gotta tell us where to come from.
Essentially, RJ being my initials, but junk in the trunk.
Junk in the trunk. And what's good about junk in the trunk?
My boyfriend likes it.
Yeah. What about derby? Is it good for?
It is for when you have a stack or you go down on your ass, bottom.
Bottom.
It's you got your built-in cushion, so yeah.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, Roller Junkie. I want to see some pack speed, ladies. Good job, red team. Just round me, count. Get going, boys. Speed it up.
Hey, lady, you're out. Yield, man.
Good luck, keep going. not about winning. So you've got to give yourself that drive and want to be a part of a team that wants to win. And you've got to be able to develop your own respect for yourself as a player.
We're going to kick Melbourne's butt. Take that back to him.
Hey, next week we use the skate force for the powers of good as we go Star Wars skating. State rivalry is taken to a whole stratospheric level as South Australia take on Victoria in a skater origin battle. There's heaps of bumps and it is unbelievable. Also too, Jason Sucklett's back, and we've got the very tough ladies of the Victorian Women's Inline Hockey League. My God, check out their skills. See you next week. Bye for now.
Tour of Newport Skate Park. It's for you, little guy.
Everybody look at me. I walk in the door, you start screaming. Come on, everybody, what you here for? Move your body around like a nympho. Everybody get your neck to crack around. All you crazy people, come on, jump around. I wanna see you all on your knees. You either wanna be with me or leave me. Come on, man.
Inline Plus brought to you by Bayside Blades, Australia's inline skating specialist.
Hi, I'm Darren McElwain from Air FM Drive. You can tune into my show from 3 to 6 p.m. on 88.0 in Penrith and also on tunein.com. And apparently, we don't throw rocks. Air FM Drive. Each week, MELfeed.video presents the CEC Report. The Citizens Electoral Council of Australia present a weekly program of political and economic analysis with policy solutions which are aimed at saving Australia from economic collapse and also suggest ways in which interested members of the public can assist in their current campaigns. The CEC Report, every Wednesday at 10:30 p.m. on MELfeed.video.
Come on, fellas. Let's get down there.
Hang on. Where's Dave?
Hey, fellas. What do you think? Pretty cool, eh?
Real men look out for each other. Don't let your mates drink and drown.
Everybody get your necks a crack, go round. All you crazy people, come on, jump, go round. You're doing anything to keep her by your side, because she says she love you long time. Come on, man, it'll make you work hard, make you spend hard, make you want all. She's a man, it'll make you
a capturing queen. Black box, just a
crawl back in place. Promise not to chase. I guess it's time. I loved what I could taste. What the years had left is what I gained. There's nothing left to give after everything I gained. The difference between finding what you love and loving what you found is killing us right now. It'll always be true. Living as one is dying us too. We both know this can't go crawl back in place, trying not to hate. I guess it's time, but won't you fade away? The difference that's when finding what you love and loving what you found is killing us right now. It'll always be true. And living as one, it's dying us too. We both know this can't go wrong.
Inline Plus was brought to you by Bayside Blades, Australia's inline skating specialist.
Now it's time for a quick reminder of programs coming up tonight on MELfeed.video, so please stay with us.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah
Welcome to Harmony and Diversity. Norm Curry is my name, and today we're speaking with Richard Lee, the Managing Director of the Campfire Film Foundation. We spoke last week with him about his faith background, and today we're going to explore the Film Foundation itself. Richard, you have a background in films, do you?
I do. Thanks for having me back, by the way. I enjoyed it.
No, that's a pleasure.
Yeah, I do have a background in film. It's something, you know, I grew out of a love of photography, and I was fortunate enough to go to the College of the Arts in 1997. So that was my graduate diploma in film and television, which came on top of a science degree. So that was kind of my qualification. I later got a dip ed as well. But that all happened when I was working for an organisation called VEA, or Video Education Australasia.
Okay.
So my work for 8 years, starting around 1999, was producing educational videos for schools. And it was in that setting that the idea of Campfire came about.
Mm. And you were saying that the idea of Campfire came about in a fairly dramatic way. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I don't know whether there was too much drama, but it was certainly a moment that I can pinpoint and say it happened, at 4 o'clock in the morning on Cup Day in November, in 2006. There was a moment that this is it. This is what I've got to do. I guess a little back step from there is that I'd been producing educational videos at that stage for about 7 years, and seeing the opportunity for resources that were getting to that spiritual dimension of life that was like nothing that we were able to produce. When you talk about education and educational videos, in fact I talked to my boss about it. My boss is quite an open and ardent atheist, and he said, we don't do religion. There's plenty of crackpots out there that will do religion. They have their own agenda, they have their own money, they can make their own programs. And I thought, well, okay, that's interesting. But I was looking for something a little bit different to do with my time. I really enjoyed my work, but thought there must be something that we can do to get some of this content in there. It was also the year that YouTube had started. That was a little bit of an inspiration, well, very much an inspiration, because I thought, wow, you can actually have videos on the internet, and people can share them, and that was profound when we realised that was possible. And the other thing was still the sort of fall off from September 11 and the realisation that people were still really awkward about people of different faiths, and in Christian circles it was the Muslims are coming, but why can't we talk about these things? Where is the space to share these deep things? If we're not talking about it, there's a danger that we're going to go down a road of intolerance and hatred and just fight about things. Can't we talk about it? And what's the way to talk about it? So it all came together in this moment. As I say, I was up one night, reading and writing and thinking, and I thought, I'm a Christian. I believe in peace. I love films. I've been involved in educational videos for a while. What is it? And I thought this metaphor of a campfire actually came from a friend who many years ago had used that as a metaphor for a good website. It was actually a metaphor for what the internet is like. And he said the internet is like a large field, and in that field people are gathering around different spaces, and some of them are building up, different campfires, if you like. Some of them are building up, some of them are dying down, but they're places that people come to share things. And I thought that's just such a great metaphor for what we can do with film. How can we get short films on the internet and use them as the way for people to come together and to talk about real issues of meaning and purpose. So that was the moment, and then I wrote it all down. This is what it's going to be called. It's about Campfire. It's about coming together. It's got to be about faith. The original idea was it was going to be about Christian films, but I was talking to my boss at work about it. He said, get a Muslim film. And I said, that's a great idea. We're on the internet. So my very first film that I collected was a Muslim film that had been in the St Kilda Film Festival. And it kind of went from there.
Yes, it brings me back to something that you were saying last week about your disappointment that a particular girlfriend hadn't been someone who'd been appointed by God. How much of a sort of a God incident do you think this was for you?
Oh, very much. I sometimes think that God works mostly with me in the wee hours of the morning, after midnight and before 4. I'm not sure that's right, but there's certainly, you have the space away from the rush of the day, away from the kids and other sort of time pressures, to think a bit more broadly about things. And it's certainly, you know, I have a distinct and deep sense that it was a God moment, if you want to call it that. That the idea was an inspiration that came from God. Yeah.
And is that inspiration being fulfilled in the ways that you had envisaged?
I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I just knew I had to do something. Right. And in fact, it was a friend from our church that had built the church website. I approached him and I said, look, do you reckon you could build something like YouTube where, you know, we're gathering films? And after he sort of fell off his chair, I said, give me a week to think about it. And he's a real kind of, you know, techie guru. And he came back to me in a week. He said, I think I can build you something. We'll give it a go. And so he built this website. And you know, I guess the story from that 2006 point to, you know, where we are now in 2013 has been a journey of that unfolding into first just a hobby. You know, my wife reminded me that there's no money involved in how we're going to keep it going, and you know, it is just a hobby, to then an incorporated association, which is more like a club, to now what is transformed into a company limited by guarantee with a business model behind it.
Okay, so it's really on the threshold. Would you see it as being on the threshold of breaking into the next phase?
I hope so. Yeah, certainly. You know, there's been some stages, and we could talk about that. But in a nutshell, you know, it is a social enterprise. So it is now firmly sort of based in business principles and how it can be self-sustaining. But it is on the threshold, I hope, of breaking even. Yeah.
And we're on the threshold of going for a break. Thanks very much. We'll be back.
Here is some brilliant news for adults who have difficulties with spelling, reading a newspaper or phone bill, or writing letters and emails. It can be easier to improve your reading and writing skills than to keep putting it off. Take the plunge. Call the Reading Writing Hotline, 1300 655 06.
1300 655 06.
It could change your life.
1 in 5 of us are affected.
10% of us will have at least one.
And the numbers double for Indigenous Australians.
Just as quick as a click of your fingers, it can happen to anyone at any time.
What would you do if someone close to you was having a seizure?
Imagine if it was your child.
My brother has it. My sister has it.
I have it.
I have it too.
You're not alone.
You're not different. And you have a bright future ahead of you.
So click for kids!
I'm Amy Lee, and I'm part of it.
Man to man, it's time to stop.
Stop the tragic waste of life and the destruction of families, including your own.
Stop blaming drugs and alcohol and believing that walking away makes you weak.
Stop thinking you're a hero and wasting your life behind bars, wishing you could take that one moment back.
Stop the coward's punch.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. Norm Curry is my name, and we're speaking with Richard Lee from the Campfire Film Foundation. Richard, clearly the Film Foundation has an organisational structure. What's the history of that and how does it operate?
One of the first challenges that we had moving from what was essentially a hobby club, an incorporated association in Victoria, to a company limited by guarantee was this separation of this idea that I had as a personal being, as a Christian myself, to the entity of Campfire and what that is, and can an entity, an organisation, be a spiritual entity?
Yes.
I still don't quite know the answer to that, although I think the answer is partly yes. But how does that translate? When what we're doing is not agenda-based, it is not a Christian mission or a Christian ministry, as despite what some of my Christian friends think that I'm here to, evangelise. Well, I'm not at all. This Campfire Film Foundation has no agenda to push any particular barrow. We invite people of all faiths and none, and we encourage people from all faiths and none to come together around films. How do we do that in a legal way? How do we wrap that up and make sure that somehow the history of where we'd come from 2006 to 2011 at that point was kind of acknowledged, but not overshadowing what needed to be a very neutral, in the best possible sense of the word, organisation that could do something useful and not just be this floating amorphous thing that just didn't mean anything to anyone.
Yes.
The way we did that, interestingly, it was in a legal framework. We had to write up our constitution, and writing the constitution was a bit of a journey that we all went through. So there was friends, there was the board that I had then was the web guy, another friend who's sort of a bit of my spiritual mentor at the time, and my father and my sister, who I respected a lot. So we were all Christians, How did we separate from that and move on? What we came up with over the course of about 3 months really was a preamble to the Constitution. So the Constitution says now that to be involved with Campfire, on the board, a member, all the ways you might want to engage with it. You can have any faith. It's completely open. It's a secular organisation, but you must agree to this preamble, and the preamble is really important. The preamble says, in essence, this was started with a Christian worldview. It actually came out of a deep, belief in Christian principles, but we acknowledge that you might not agree with that. But please, at the very least, I'm paraphrasing our preamble, but at the very least, acknowledge that everyone has a viewpoint. There is no such thing as religious neutrality. That everyone, whether you're an atheist, even if you're an agnostic, if you're a Buddhist, a Muslim, a Hindu, it doesn't matter. Everything that you think about, every way you frame a film, a perspective on a film, a comment about a film, that comes with a worldview. Just acknowledge that. Don't have to do anything with that. Let's just be understanding that that is what it is we're doing, and that's the preamble, and that's how we got over that.
So there's a very careful avoidance of any presumption of neutrality, so that you can actually deal with the issue, and not hide it.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So your current board comprises how many people?
We've got 4 people on the board, including myself. And people often want to know what the identity of Campfire is. It's just worth highlighting that they come with all sorts of different views. I'm the only one that would probably call themselves a Christian.
Yes.
And we're open with that, and that's who we are. So there's no agenda about what we're doing in a spiritual or religious sense.
An important part of Campfire, of course, is the filmmakers themselves. Where do they come from? What sort of eclectic mix are they?
Very eclectic, and the more eclectic, the better. Not entirely true, but we are collecting films from all around the world. The filmmakers are our stars, really. That's what the Campfire is. A campfire of films, of flickering films, and it's the filmmakers that inject their passion and heart about life, about all sorts of different issues. Anything you care to name, there's probably a short film out there that has been made about that with heart and with passion, and they're the films that we're trying to gather. So we've got everything from filmmakers who are quite openly knocking the idea of God, for example. They're passionate atheists, and we love those films. They get us thinking about, why should I believe in a God if you're saying that? We can objectify this conversation because we can watch this film together. So that stops us fighting. We can watch the film and talk about how we're feeling about that issue. Right. So we've got filmmakers that are Buddhists and Muslims and atheists and Hindus. Everyone comes with an unknown agenda, and that's the exciting part, because we never quite know what we're going to get, but that's what we're given, and that's the heart of Campfire in many ways.
What about the standard of production? Is there a minimum standard? Or?
That's why there's a competition aspect to it. So we run a regular Campfire Film Festival, and we award the best. Right. What we've gone to this year too is a four periodic intakes throughout the year, and so we say, here's the cut-off for this particular school term. We might get, say, 30 films. We're going to pick the 10 best, or the 10 that most align with what teachers in schools are looking for, because that's our social enterprise. But it allows us to sort of weed out the ones that, okay, they might be good on a certain level, or they might just be really rubbish because they're not made very well. Yes. But we're looking for that spiritual depth. Not always overtly spiritual or religious, but it needs to have something that touches our heart, and hopefully not our microphone, touches our heart and makes us think about what life is about and what it means to be human and what lifelong learning can be about. And what's the level of usage of this from a school point of view? Is it a resource which teachers recognise and use readily? There's some who have got it. There's some teachers in a few schools that we've got. Well, we've got approaching now 50 schools who are signed up as members, which is really exciting, because they're our funding base, which means we can be sustainable. But there's a few teachers. Some schools have signed up and they kind of don't quite know how to use it and whatever, if that's straightforward. There's some teachers absolutely bolted on and passionate and going, this is fantastic. Fantastic. They're the people that are really helpful, but also they get the idea of what we're on about.
Excellent. Well, we're going to have to unbolt ourselves because we need to go to a break. Thanks for watching. We'll be back.
My name is Logan. I'm 12 years old and I have Duchenne muscular dystrophy. My muscles are degenerating and I was put into a wheelchair 2 years ago. Soon I won't be able to move at all. The majority of people affected will not live past their 20s, including me. So we need your support to improve our quality of life until a cure is found.
You teach us strangers are dangerous. But someone we know is a much more likely threat. You teach us strangers are dangerous. But who will help when you're not around? Create a world without unnecessary fear. Prepare, don't scare.
Here are the current weather readings for Melbourne, Geelong, Ballarat, Shepparton, Bendigo and Echuca on the MELfeed video weather wall. It also includes tomorrow's forecast and expected minimum temperatures in these areas overnight. This is the MELfeed video weather wall on a different sort of TV. MELfeed Video.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. Norm Curry is my name, and we're speaking with Richard Lee from the Campfire Film Foundation. Richard, on your website, there's this inspirational quotation, and if you bear with me, I'd read it. In a world of increasing globalization, Campfire has a valuable contribution to make. As people of different belief systems come into contact, a common reaction to these differences is tribalism and fear. Tolerance can only be achieved through understanding both one's own beliefs and the beliefs of others. Now, how has that translated for you? That's been your statement of purpose. What's it look like today?
When we set up the foundation as an organisation, we realised that one of the richest audience pool, if you like, were in schools. Teachers, and this came from my experience with VEA making educational videos. I knew roughly what teachers were after in schools. And I thought they're not getting these kind of films with heart and real passion behind them. Regular campfire film.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. Norm Curry is my name, and we're speaking with Richard Lee from the Campfire Film Foundation. Richard, on your website, there's this inspirational quotation, and if you bear with me, I'd read it. In a world of increasing globalization, Campfire has a valuable contribution to make. As people of different belief systems come into contact, a common reaction to these differences is tribalism and fear. Tolerance can only be achieved through understanding both one's own beliefs and the beliefs of others. Now, how has that translated for you? That's been your statement of purpose. What's it look like today?
When we set up the foundation as an organisation, we realised that one of the richest audience pool, if you like, were in schools. Teachers, and this came from my experience with VEA making educational videos. I knew roughly what teachers were after in schools. And I thought they're not getting these kind of films with heart and real passion behind them. So our focus as an organisation has been on schools. How does it translate? I think what we really hope to do is to get kids excited about learning, and not just learning facts, but learning what it means to be human, learning insights into life, learning from people who might not actually agree with them on an ideological or a spiritual or religious level, but learning in a way that gets them excited about life and engaging with what it means to be human. So it's still a journey. That sort of the ideals of that are there, and it's a goal, it's a destination we're heading towards, and something that we will always be struggling to not only make happen, but also try and measure. We are a social enterprise that needs to measure everything. How are we going to work out whether we're achieving this or not? That's a whole other discussion we're working through with our various partners. But I like to think that, in the same way that it's hard to measure anything spiritual, you can see the wind and the way it moves the trees, but you don't always know what it looks like or where it's coming from, where it's going to. The spiritual aspect of what we're doing is very hard to pin down, but it's real.
Yes.
And teachers that get what we're doing realise that there is this spiritual dimension which is really important.
Those teachers that get what you're doing, is it a large body of them, or is it a fairly discrete group?
We'd like it to be larger. And I think it's worth highlighting the educational sectors, if you like, because to me that's part of our challenge is to go across the sectors. So you have the independent schools, you have the Catholic schools, you have the government schools. As someone who's not a Catholic, I've been really inspired by Catholics. Some people have called me a sort of an honorary Catholic because I go into schools and more often than not they get what we're doing. We have partnerships with organisations that are really into social justice. They're about showcasing films and filmmakers who are doing really good things in the world and showing what good can be done when good people put their hand to the plough and get stuff done. A lot of Catholic schools really get what we're doing, and I've spoken at Catholic conferences and got teachers signed up in the schools. Independent schools are independent. There's mixed bags. Some of the more fundamental schools, whether they're Christian or Islamic or whatever, they get it, but there's a little bit more wariness in some situations. Some of the more secular independent schools get it because they've got lots of money and they just go, "Yeah, sounds good, we'll get it." But others have really adopted it as well. The tricky one. And tricky only because it's such a contentious issue in Australian culture. How do you deal with the spiritual in a government school,
yes,
a state-based school setting? And the answer is, I don't know, but we're constantly trying to work it out. You don't mention spirituality, you don't mention religion. We don't hide that, and that's why I always am prepared to say, I'm a Christian, this is the background we come from. But everyone, every teacher gets that what they're teaching in schools has other layers that they may not have names for or be a bit shy of using in terms of spirituality, faith, belief and all of those things. But they know that deep down there is something going on which films can help them get to.
Yes.
To me, it's the government schools that I get really excited about, because short films and the work that we're doing is really giving teachers an opportunity to go to those places, talk about death. That might be a bit scary, but let's watch this film. How do you relate to that? Let's talk about these other issues. They might not be religious films, but there's a lot of growth that can happen in that area, I think.
So, with feedback from teachers, has there been any feedback which has been outstanding in description and inspiration?
There's a number. I should write them down and have them off the top of my head, but the ones that come to mind, look, there was a student, we had a philosophy screening, so 5 films showcasing films that got kids thinking about philosophy. It's the start of a Year 12 unit on the good life, they call it. And you know, one student said it wasn't until she came along to this screening night, saw one of the films, it's actually a music video, it's just a really good music video. She said, it wasn't until I saw that film that I realised that this wasn't just a subject I was learning, this was something that applied to me, and it had really deep implications about the way I was approaching my study. To me, that's exciting, because it's getting her engaged in learning, but about these bigger questions in life too. We've had other, you know, a chaplain at a school who said, you know, one of the films, one of our shortest films, is only 1:20 long. He says he shows that at the start of every year now, because it keeps his students going for about 2 hours. They're writing poetry about their impression of God and what faith means. Oh, these really big questions through 1:20 of this really quite, you know, obscure film in many ways, but it just enlivens these minds. Yeah.
It's totally inspirational, and we've run out of time, as time is the master here. Thank you so much, Richard. That is really worthwhile work.
Thank you.
If you want to find out more about Campfire Films, you might care to look at their website, which is campfire.org.au. Thank you for watching Harmony and Diversity, and we'll be seeing you next week.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
Live stream from Melbourne each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Tu étais un tronc quand elle te connut. Elle a fait son escapade de merde. Tu étais un tronc quand elle te connut, elle fait son sculpture de merde. You were a piece of shit when she first met you. And so she moulded a sculpture. Now she can't leave her shitty piece of sculpture in case somebody else gets the benefit of her work. You piece of sculptured shit. Tu étais notre âme quand elle te connut. Elle a fait son sculpture de merde. On était notre âme quand elle te connut. Elle a fait son sculpture de merde.
The hostile ballerina. At home, Melbourne's Arts Centre near the Spire, I'd auditioned and won a non-dancing acting role, governess to the Prince in the ballet Swan Lake. Lavish new production, stunning Russian-inspired costumes with the visiting Royal Ballet, Covent Garden, London. One night behind the curtain, on the darkened stage, waiting for the stage manager to call positions, please, we were gathered close in a tight little circle, a few actors, some dancers talking before the overture about nothing much. I'm wearing a sombre grey tapestry governess costume, long sweeping train, bustle at the back, tall grey top hat and feather, looking severe and a hell of a lot older than I was then. Opposite me, a diminutive ballerina, all of 5 feet tall, in pale pink tutu, pink satin block toe shoes, feet spread apart, hands on hips, suddenly stops talking, rises to her full height, a ferocious sight. She announced loudly, "Who's had garlic for dinner?" I don't need to tell you, all those years in theatre honing my skills were for this moment. My life depended on this, not a muscle moved, not so much as a blink. Deadpan, I just waited for the moment to pass. I was Sarah Bernhardt on a good night. Dame Judi Dench in full flight. Mercifully, the stage manager called, "Positions, please," and the tight little circle of actors and dancers melted away into the dark, back to our places. I'd escaped unscathed, thanks to Sarah and Dame Judi and all the goddesses of ancient theatre, but in the eyes of this tiny little despot, this exploding, tutu-bedecked Tinkerbell of a ballerina, I'd committed the worst sin ever. Garlic for dinner. Thank you.
It all starts with a question that never gets answered. It crops up again and again and again in your head, on your lips, in your memory. An answer that never made sense. An answer that was no answer. An answer that was a lie. And every day you ask the same question and swallow the same lie.
This is new. I did this today. It's called 3 Births, Prologue. C, born of the proud mountain clan, saddled with clandestine destiny, sword swathed in poetry and rugged as the peaks are rugged. He descends with deliberate step, his footprints forming an unbroken train, dragging through the foothills, then the plains. See, born in the bloodshot eye of a storm, the worm in the gut of the world, threading the eddies of the very air that birthed her monstrous form. The gale cries in relief and despair, it cannot restrain her motion, and she flies in the direction of the ocean. See, born in the mind of the man of the hour, mute and blind, bathed in slivers of unkind pictures that shatter his silence. He lashes at the prison of his hours, groping past the limits of his powers, and lives the flower of an empty world, turned outward, searching for the purchase of purpose, shifting like a shadow through the outskirts. Listen, the skin is pulled tight on the drum of the world. It is hollow and wanting inside. And now it waits for grand events to play upon its hide.
Must she give up everything? Must she hide in the warmth of his sheets? Must she live a life of lies and deceit because he can't understand her truth? Well, is this easier for her? This selfless, jumbled whirlpool of confused emotions? Is what she seeks oblivion through another's taunting abuse, another's psychotic demands, another's... Is this her utopia? Her family inheritance? Her nurturing necessity, her female need? Are there answers to these questions? I don't know. Well, I ask her to listen on and understand the gradual emotional shattering of her children, herself, her soul, and see, and try to set herself free.
Now on MELfeed Video, here are the latest Wednesday TATSLotto results just drawn a short time ago under government supervision. All results shown are subject to confirmation. We hope that these numbers brought you a little bit of luck tonight. If not, there's always next week. Stay tuned to MELfeed Video for more great programs this evening.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different, but we have core values that are the same. They remain the same.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community, but most importantly it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at 27.
I was 46.
I was 62.
The first symptom I noticed
was loss of balance.
Was that I was always tired.
Was a loss of smell.
The most difficult thing for me is not to be able to travel in my retirement.
The most difficult thing for me was giving up a career that I loved.
The hardest thing for my mum was being pregnant with me.
multi-purpose. You're a shadow on my blot. A blot upon my shadows. A shadow of blots to me like an incomprehensible ink blot in a psychiatrist's office. Ah, you look like a butterfly, but you sting like a bee. You're a wolf in ink blot clothing. A blot on the shadow of my existence. A world of blotting shadows. You're just an ink blot to me, to me, to me. I see a little silhouette of a man. You're a shit, I won't do the fandango. Your thunderbolts are tightening, doesn't really matter to me. To me, da 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 diddly diddly da 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 diddly da 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 diddly dee. So you think you can shaft me? I'll spit in your eye, da 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 da. So you think you can cuff me? I'll leave you to die. Oh baby, won't you listen to me, baby? Gotta get out. You gotta get right out of here. 'Cause baby, I ain't leaving.
Oblique. Best not come at the thing head on. The glass is hard and the wooden frame sturdy. Instead, let your eyes follow the flight path of the swamp hawk at first light, with her ally, the early morning shadow, leaning well aside. As much may be divined in the rainless passage of clouds as in their waterborne reflections, potent and changeable, constantly redefining the truth. Visible or not, there is always the moon, but the moon will seldom look you straight in the eye, tending fey and holding to an elliptic prosody, bent on telling and retelling of the Earth's abrupt rejection. Beyond the sphere's predictable orbit, space slowly opens, stars veer off the visible spectrum. An overabundance of theoretical notions, yet none to answer the question which remains. How then to end a poem about a bird you can't quite name, but sings beautifully? Thank you.
Telly and phone talk. Tonight, all new. Tonight, all new. Tonight, all new, all new, new, new. Don't get out of your chair. Don't go out to get a snack. Don't go out to go to the toilet. Stay with us. Stay with us. You can't afford to miss it. Can't afford to take your eyes off it. It's everything you want and it's got everything you need. It's going to be hot, hot, hot. Stay with us. Stay with us. So you think you can dance? Well, dance, dance, dance round my whole mouth clean 360 degrees. Smile for the camera with that extra tasty cheese. Oh, what a feeling. Tonight, all new, news update. Brought to you by the new action movie, Try Hard 4. Leading the headlines tonight, you guessed it, the supercharged, high-tension, thrill-filled rollercoaster public release of action-packed action movie, Try Hard 4. This is not an advertisement. This is news. This is news. This is news. News. These are news. New news. Newer news. It's the newest news in town. That was news. Whether home or away, the blackcurrant affair, balanced loser, big loser, the bigger the loser, the 7, 9, 10 biggest loser, stay with us, stay with us. $39,999.99 drive away, but don't drive away right now, stay with us, stay with us. Stay glued to your seat set where the good times start. Tonight, all new, news update, brought to you by the new action ad for the new action movie, Try Hard 4. Leading the headlines tonight, would you believe, the casting of Ray Martin in the lead role of the new action ad for the new action movie, Try Hard 4. And we're crossing live to Ray's secret, unlisted, very, very private residence to break the good news to him. Hi, Ray. We're just here to tell you, piss off. But look, Ray, it's me, Rove. You know, your old mate Rover, hey. Oh, sorry, mate, I thought you were Media Watch. So what can I do for a decent Aussie bloke like you? Am I on This Is Your Life? No, Ray, this is extra talk and text with your favourite nobodies. It's not who you do it with, it's the fact that you just do it. Talk and text with nobodies. And send the mullah to prepaidnobodies.com. Stay with us, stay with us, stay with us. No, don't answer the phone, don't answer the phone. Stay with us, stay with us, stay with us. It's going to be hot, hot, hot. Don't answer that phone. Hello? Good evening, this is Brad from another telecommunications conglomerate. Are you having a good night so far? Groovy. Just ringing to check if you'd like to check out our irresistible new deal on cable telly tonight. It's going to be so hot, 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 you'll want to stay with us, stay with us, stay with us tonight. It's all new tonight, all new to take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime offer. Just grunt during one of my microsecond breaths. Thank you, congratulations. We'll be round to install your new cable telly unit the moment you get back to your set, seat, set. Ciao.
I was going to do a Shakespeare piece because I actually did a lot of Shakespeare in the old days, and I might be able to remember this one. This is when I actually auditioned for at the Victorian College of the Arts and thankfully didn't get in. It's a piece with Brutus and Portia speaking, and it's just before Brutus is about to et tu, Brute, do the Caesar thing. Yeah, okay, so she comes out, and if I can try and remember it, if I can't, just get rid of that. You have ungently, Brutus, stole from my bed, and yesternight at supper you suddenly arose and walked about, musing and sighing with your arms across. And when I asked you what the matter was, you stared upon me with ungentle looks. Yet I insisted, yet you answered not, but with an angry waft of your hand gave sign for me to leave you. Well, so I did, fearing to strengthen that impatience which seemed so much enkindled, and withal hoping it was but an effect of humour which sometime hath its hour with every man. It will not let you eat, nor talk, nor sleep, and could it work so much upon your shape, as it hath much prevailed upon your condition, well, I should not know you, Brutus. Dear my lord, make me acquainted with your cause of grief. What? Is Brutus sick? And would he dare the vile contagion of the night to add unto his sickness? Is Brutus sick? And would he steal out into the Permian there you go. The roomy and unperjured air to add unto his sickness? No, my Brutus. You have some sick offence within your mind, which, by the strength and virtue of my place, I ought to know of. And upon my knees I charm you, by my once commended beauty, and by all your vows of love, that you incorporate and make us one, and you unfold to me your sense, yourself. What is making you heavy? For there have been 6 or 7 who have been here tonight, who did not even unfold their faces even into the darkness. Thank you.
Joy, well-being, community, inclusion.
Special Olympics is a global movement for people with an intellectual disability, creating a world of inclusion and community through sport, where every person is accepted and welcomed, regardless of ability. One athlete, one volunteer, one family member at a time, helping to make the world a better place. Join the inclusion revolution by supporting Special Olympics.
And choose to include.
It's easy for things to go wrong around water. More so if you can't swim.
It's great seeing kids confident in the water and enjoying themselves. An important part of keeping kids safer around water is learning to swim.
There are over 600 registered swimming schools that run the Australian Unity Learn to Swim program. To find one, go to the Swim Australia website.
Show Me The Way creates the first social networking sites for Australia's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. With secure online mentoring, Show Me The Way supports students to complete their schooling and continue to TAFE, university or vocational education. Show Me The Way connects students with e-mentors from corporate Australia. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete Year 12. To donate, visit showmetheway.org.au.
Coming up next on MELfeed.video.
Tick, 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 fashion.
Tick, 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 fun.
Tick, 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 food.
Tick, 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 festivals.
All make up 15 fabulous minutes.
In a half-hour special.
Presented to you by Jacqueline and Steve.
Every week.
Coming up next on MELfeed.video.
Time's up.
And this is a poem with fuck in it.
What a wonderful title.
And it is dedicated to the ninja. The ninja. It was actually part of a poem for the Dan, and we were given Longing with Love Acquainted Eyes. Did anyone else here write a poem to that? Longing, Love Acquainted Eyes? Yes, yes. Well, this is one I didn't actually read out on the day. I don't think. Her red hair flamed with fire as he embraced her rounded breasts with lashings of desire, slathering her thighs with chocolate jelly pudding. He ignited her sighs with a 9-inch leather woody. Was this love? She was longing for love, longing with love acquainted eyes, longing with screaming, cooing cries. He took her juice. He took her love, then screamed off with, I thought it was just a fuck. Okay.
We are nurtured long for a reason, swaddled in warm words and eliciting nature's unbidden smiles. We learn from faltering steps, salty rebukes and guiding hands to close our pores against the world's wounding when it forces its sulphurous lips against our cheek. Through deeds we find the weight that words and awareness will bear on this castle, this self, this flotsam of starlight and clay we arrive with, always seeming ready to implode and blind us, tantalising us with the spectre of control and then yanking the wheel from our hands. Such effort to pour into an unstable structure, such forbearance to secure that which seems made to crumble. But by these efforts the structure gains a memory, and by will begin to reassemble itself if only prompted, hands gaining assurance as they select and discard the strands of emerging selfhood in the darkness of dreams. And if in this we see a design, then it is as it should be. A simple enough thing. One line, two loops facing one another. Infinity, they say. The first loop begets the second, whose momentum recreates the first, and so it goes.
I was torn as to what poem I was going to read this evening, but I've decided on this because Jeff and Josie are both here, as well as Ant, and this poem is written for them. As a writer, it's something that you can't really do by yourself if you don't have feedback and the inspiration of other people who write. You keep repeating yourself and end up being stale. So this is for everyone. It's called Manifesto of the Sky. First, before anything, I must write. This fills me with fierce joy. I will write such words that the people will think the sunset of the world has come and mistake me for a tumbling star spear of heaven. Across the fields in glittering red and gold I will streak, lighting the skirts of the night with angel's fire, immolating strands of lace and thread, until naked beneath the howling moon the whole world lies bright and keening. The A chorus of 1,000 people will lift their hearts on the wind. On their shoulders a coffin, in my heart a star. The world will slow to the infinite motion of honey. They will not know or understand. Fear will ride their hearts with quick spurs. But who can resist the siren song, the true burning of the flame? Who would say no, deny me? So heaven's falling spear, I will fire the skirts of the night. In my wake they will drink wine and watch as my folded body slides along convoluted mountains, over fresh worn stones, across the plains to the sea. They will raise their glasses and toast to the ones who have gone before, to the ones who first rode the chaos, and destruction will turn and move beyond the world, circling the other side of eternity.
Hi, coming up next is 15 fabulous minutes, and that will be followed by the Lions Club promotional video, and then we'll go into tonight's episode of the CEC Report, and that will be followed by episode 2 of Transports of Distant Delight. And if you're wondering what's happened to Vidibus Radio, it hasn't disappeared altogether. We are going to restart it very soon. It's not on air at the moment, but it will be on air very soon. We've just got to set up a computer to operate it, and once we get that computer set up, we'll be back up and running. So goodbye for now, and we'll see you again next week.
It is dedicated
Each week on MELfeed.video, join us for Northern Access Television's general interest chat show, NAT Chat. Each episode features interesting and informative interviews from people of all walks of life. Weekly topics include community groups, religious topics and professional people covering many different subject areas. That's NAT Chat every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. here on MELfeed.video. Live streamed from Melbourne each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Welcome to another fabulous 15 fried up minutes today.
That's right, we're going to do a half-hour cooking special with a bit of a twist too.
Now, my favourite meal of the day, Steve, would have to be breakfast. If you're going to get up after 12, then you'll be wanting to have breakfast any time of the day. What about yourself?
I'm a lunch man and I'm going to head down to Cafe Botticelli's in Geelong and see what's cooking up there.
And that's not all. We've got a bit of a cooking is a drag. It's a bit of cooking with a twist.
That's right, so keep watching. Lots more coming just around the corner. found Botticelli's, and the first thing you notice when you come here is the aroma of ground coffee, and I actually smell Parmesan cheese for some reason, but then again it is an Italian-style Mediterranean restaurant. Oh, no, there you go, Parmesan, 3 bowls of it. I thought I could smell it. Now, can you direct me to the kitchen?
Just go straight through here, Steve.
Yep, and I'll see what's cooking. What's the chef's name? Russell. Okay, we'll check out Russell and see what is happening. Chef Russell, what are you going to be cooking for us, or me today actually?
Right, well, I'm starting with a Thai seafood salad, and next course is a char-grilled medallion of lamb, which has been marinated in chamula, and with char-grilled beetroot, sweet potato, and deep-fried asparagus, with a harissa jus. For last course, there's a passion fruit savion with over fresh fruits and sweet wontons, which are filled with almond, pistachio, and lemon.
Okay, I thought I was just going to get burger and chips, but obviously not.
Order up, order up, order up. Okay, we've got an order. We have scrambled eggs, toast, and mushroom. Master Chef, work your magic.
Always have a scramble or omelette mix pre-made. Sort of done in the morning when you come in. Earlier in the week when it's not that busy, you can do it to order, so it's not a problem.
One thing that always amazes me is your ability to get the whole meal done at the one time. Like, the bread's on there and the mushrooms are just on there. You haven't done the omelette yet. How do you know you're going to get it all done at the same time?
It's sort of hope, I guess, or the fact that you've done it that many times, and you sort of, that's not recommended. You shouldn't be doing that, putting my hand down there and burning all the hairs off.
Didn't see that. Don't do this at home, children.
Yeah, it's just, as I say, it's just having done it so many times, that's all. You'll just simply get used to it. Normally you might, like on a busy Saturday or Sunday, there could be 5 or 6 stockers going at the one time, so then that's when it starts to get a little bit sort of, I get everything ready and stuff like that.
Do you ever like give somebody maybe porridge with an omelette by mistake? Like muddle up the order?
More like an honest thing where you sort of send out a docket and think, oh my God, that should have been a poached egg, and you send out scrambled or something like that. And occasionally the other thing where you've actually left something off at the last minute, you've sort of gone, oh, they've got no spinach, so you can do the spinach fairly quickly anyway, so it's not a huge problem.
So the chef isn't infallible then?
Fresh scallops, fresh prawns, fresh baby octopus, some sesame oil, vegetable oil, a dressing which I've made from lime juice, fish sauce, fresh chilli, ginger, garlic. I have some lime zest, and I have some fragrant leaves, which is Vietnamese, coriander and mint, and some fresh chilli and some lime.
So a bit of oil in the pan to start frying it up. Get the pan pretty hot. Is that important?
Yes, so you seal the seafood without stewing it.
Okay, so if it's a cold pan, you start to stew. Not a good thing, huh? Oh, bit of oil, stand back. And that second prawn, we're going to the third prawn.
To lightly top that through the oil, just to seal it all. Now I'll add some lime there.
Bit of lime, bit of chilli. What else we got going? Garlic. Oh, sounds good.
Stir that.
Getting a little burnt here.
Like the pig? Get out of the kitchen. Now that's first one ready.
Oh, that's done that quick.
Yep. It's got to be just tossed through fragrant leaves.
Why is it chefs always make it look so easy?
Because it's practice and it is quite easy. Anything, it's being well prepared. That's the main thing. If you've got everything set out and you know what you're doing, it's a very simple thing to do.
Well, that's one down. Looks good.
Now we've got the omelette happening.
One ladle. Is this scrambled or omelette?
Scrambled.
Oh, thank God. The omelette takes a bit longer.
What's the difference between an omelette and scrambled eggs then?
Well, the omelette basically goes in as a one shape, whereas the scrambled eggs basically are cooked into that sort of kind of runny, depending on how people want it, or hard. You get different requests with scrambled. Some people like it sort of a little bit of fluid still in it. Other people like it rock hard. Same with omelettes, same with poached eggs, same with fried eggs. So all those things are different sort of requests. I tend to serve the scrambled a little on the runny side rather than sort of having it like too tough. I think some of our regular customers know that's the way I cook, so those who want it a bit harder, you see the bottom. Sort of
now, I'm putting the microwave near the eggs because rice bubbles snap, crackle and pop. I'm just going to see what noise the eggs make. They're quite quiet this morning, aren't they? They're not very talkative eggs, are they? Oh, with mushrooms, they really chitter-chatter away.
You get to sort of, say, do a menu, you look at it from all sorts of areas. Economically, is it what people want? Is it interesting? Will it work? Can you get it done in time? Is it an old favourite or something like that? So they're sort of ready. I mean, this is fairly simple, this one.
I must ask too, how do you keep so slim and trim? Being a chef, a lot of chefs tend to be a little bit podgy because you've got to taste the food. Is that true or not?
Yeah, I think it is. I sort of go to gym a lot.
Is that because you're around food a lot?
Yeah, and plus I don't eat I barely eat it. I never cook at home.
Oh, right. You eat out?
No, I just don't cook at home. I sort of go home and have some fruit and yogurt and things like that.
Actually, that's true, because do chefs cook for themselves and their friends?
Occasionally. I've cooked for friends, but it's been about 2 years, I think, since I cooked for anyone.
You've marinated that for how long?
That's been in there for about half an hour.
Half an hour. How long should you marinate meat anyway, in general? Can you over-marinate meat?
Depending, usually with wine you can. The wine tends to dry the meat out, especially if you do it overnight. With a marinade like this, preferably the day before would be good, but it should pull in enough flavour within a short period of time. Marinated in chamula, which is it's like a pesto, but it's a Middle Eastern version of pesto. It has fresh coriander, cumin.
It's not every day you get a private chef to cook for you, your own personal meal, and I think I might take Russ home, and can I hire you, keep you at home, cook for me, pay you out, or yeah, well, Channel 31, we'll have to talk.
The proof is in the pudding, so they say. This is how it's being served? What is it with parsley colour?
It's the green. Just a little fleck. Or you can sprinkle a bit over.
Okay, let's go.
I've got some asparagus here. It's been dipped in egg wash and fresh breadcrumbs with herbs, which I'm going to place in the frying bath.
In and out. That's the way we like it. Got a bit of beetroot going on here. Can't beat the root, you know.
This is the harissa jus. It's harissa's a Middle Eastern spice. It's got chili and dried coriander, dried cumin, fennel.
So it's quite potent indeed.
Yeah.
The main's just about ready. Nicely char grilled, I must say. Crisscross. Now, everybody, it has to do the crisp grill, and it's something that's a little hard to perfect, I think. Doing it well, professionals here. So how do you tell whether it's medium rare or well done? The well done would be black and burnt.
The meat becomes more firm when it's...
So what is it at the moment?
It's probably about medium rare.
Medium rare. Let me just touch me. Yep, it's medium rare. The asparagus is going down. Well, there you go. A bit of a pro, I must say. Well, many years of training here at the deep fryer. McDonald's has sort of paid off, I think. This is looking good. This is looking very, very good. The garnish, oh yes, the pièce de résistance is the lovely sauce. I'll never get that one down. Is that French? It sounds French from Middle Eastern. Moroccan is sort of French, no, isn't it really? Oh, look at that. That is just sensational.
Normally wontons are savoury, but I'm using wonton wrappers to make a dessert. I have here a filling of almond meal, sugar, pistachio, lemon juice, egg white, and lemon zest. Put a small amount into the wonton wrapper, pick it up, and virtually squeeze it into like...
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Basically throwing it all onto a plate.
Well, keep watching Fabulous 15 fired up minutes and stay tuned for after the break because there's a lot more coming up with a little bit of a twist.
Oh, my bill. I lost my wallet.
Looks like you're going to have to come with me then, Steve.
What do you mean?
I want that now.
Here we are at some very trashy nightclub, Soho, also formerly the Dollhouse. It's 6:30 in the morning. Thanks for that, Jacqueline.
No worries. Bright and early and chipper as ever. And yes, here we are for another episode of Cooking is a Drag, and it certainly is, as you will shortly discover. We have none other than one of Melbourne's top drag queens joining us this morning to prepare an absolutely divine meal. None other than Star herself. Star, please. Welcome to the kitchens here.
Morning, two non-blondes. How are you this morning?
Very well. You're pretty chipper for this time of the morning.
I certainly am, love. I certainly am. Nice and fresh.
Now, the outfit that you've chosen today...
It's simply Parisian, love. That's all I can say. Simply Parisian.
We have another one. We have our tabletop dancer.
Hi, how is everyone?
How practiced are you for this job?
I've been doing this for years, honey.
For years. So you've got the legs for it, I see. So I'm going to help you up onto the table.
Fantastic. Maybe you'd like to give us a bit of an insight into Velvet and her quality.
One of our showgirls over here. She's the longest and most experienced table dancer we have. And she follows all my dietary tips.
Fantastic. Now, this is one of your dietary tips, isn't it? Yes. You're a struggling model in Paris, I believe.
I was a successful model in Paris, love. Not struggling. Modelling for Terry Mugler, and we were on a very, very strict diet.
Is this one of his creations?
No. I can say it's not. I won't lie, I won't cheat. It looks Terry Mugler, but it's not.
Okay, well, if it looks it, that's the main thing.
Cheat.
Right. Now, what are you going to prepare for us this morning?
Well, I'm going to prepare a salad that my best friend, Philippe and Jean-Marc, told me while I was living in Paris for 2 months.
Now, is this like a French salad?
It's a French cold pasta salad.
Any snails or frog's legs?
Oh, no snail, no frog legs, just cheese.
Cheese, excellent. Okay, well, bring it on. Please take it away.
Well, the simplest way to start is we'll get the pasta, and everybody knows how to boil pasta. Simply boil it for about 10-15 minutes till it's al dente. You rinse it and you let it cool. You put it aside, you put it in a bowl. So let's do that with the pasta, Jacqueline. Keep dancing, Velvet, keep dancing. Oh, look at all that pasta's going everywhere. So imagine we've boiled the pasta. Then step 2 is you go to your fridge. You open up your fridge and you have a look what ingredients you have. Well, we've got a couple of those little baby tomatoes. Get them out, throw them into the pasta. There's no need to dice or slice. Velvet, keep dancing, darling, keep dancing. Jacqueline, more tomatoes, girl, more tomatoes. A starving model's got to eat her vitamins. More tomatoes. Right. Third ingredient, a bit of cheese. Tasty cheese, feta cheese, any cheese you've got, mouldy cheese. Open the packet. Oh, she can't open the packet, and we haven't got any knives here, viewers. So we need someone with teeth. Any of the boys got teeth? Rip that packet open. Come on, Jacqueline. Oh, fantastic. Thank you, darling. No, Jacqueline. Put the cheese in. Then we might have a bit of a leftover boiled egg. Dice it up, smash it, throw it in. Whoa! Easy, love. Okay, we've got, oh yeah, pop the egg in. Oh, it's raw. It's meant to be boiled, viewers. Jacqueline wasn't meant to do that. Hard-boiled sliced egg. So we'll just imagine that sort of hard-boiled, stir it up. Now, What do we have here? Let's open it up and have a look. Come on, love, open it up. Keep dancing, girl, keep dancing.
You're an expert at this.
I certainly am, love. I certainly do. We've got a couple of overweight tabletop dancers over here. Hopefully we'll call them out. They can give them a couple of modelling and swimming tips.
So this is a swimming tip.
Very lovely. As you can see, I'm at size 8. Now, we just slice, dice, whip or shred. No problem.
Okay.
Show the viewers what it looks.
That looks delicious. Very appetising.
That in there.
I think, you know,
Slice,
use
slice,
your
slice.
imagination, viewers.
Yeah, square or slice, so that goes in. Now, what have we got here? Oh, fabulous. It's an apple cider, natural apple cider vinegar. This is the secret ingredient.
Secret ingredient.
You need that. Now, we need something to shake it up in. Use velvet legs to open it up. Oh, look what we found here, viewers. A bit of leftover olives. Throw the olives in.
Right, okay.
No, Jacqueline, you done a mistake, love. No.
Sorry.
Sorry, viewers. Step back. We need a little container like this. You help me, love. Put a bit of vinegar in here, bit of oil, and of course, French mustard. Quickly, love. Open it up. French. Come on, Jane, I'll give you a couple of darling trips on my pasta salad. Okay, viewers. A bit of French mustard.
I specialise in meat dishes, you know that, Star.
He says, how about some slimming vegetarian dishes, darling?
Really?
Yeah, now come and watch. Stir it up. The secret's in stirring it up. Throw it in there.
Throw it in.
Oh.
And that's it. So simple and so easy. Anybody can do it, anywhere, anytime. And I tell you what, after 2 weeks on this, Miss Jane is guaranteed to lose at least 4 kilos. Yes. Sample it, Miss Jane, please.
It's just extraordinary. It's
Nice.
great. It looks great.
Oh, lovely. Have a bit, love.
Thank you.
What do you think? It's gorgeous. Was it very hard?
Melbourne, bye, Star. Oh, I gotta go. You look fabulous.
Is that it, Star? Is that about all you've got for us today? Any little, words?
No, just bon appetit and Peter Russell Clark, eat your heart out.
Where's the cheese?
You'll ever get in Melbourne. Yeah, where's the cheese? There it is. In Star's Parisian pasta.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. Wow.
Going off in there?
Absolutely.
Now, a bit hungry?
A little bit.
This is Star's Parisian pasta salad. Now, doesn't that look delicious?
Does. Lovely, Star.
Oh, look, you can start then.
I can. Well,
That pasta is freshly cooked.
Oh, Lara, that was very game. I'll just have a bit of pasta.
Oh, yes, try that freshly cooked pasta we prepared earlier.
In my mouth. Due to get something skinny. Cooked, so.
No, it's all cooked. We prepared it a little earlier.
Okay.
Just eat the pasta, will you?
Yeah.
Oh, pasta.
Yeah, eat it. And smile for Star because, she cooked that herself.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, have some more. Have some more.
Eat some more.
Have you had some?
I have. I'm full.
One moment, please. How about some of Star's Parisian pasta salad? It's freshly prepared for clubbers.
That sounds fantastic. In fact, I might start with the uncooked pasta.
No, that's specially prepared.
Good morning, viewers. And you're going to do a little sampling. Really? You just need to dig your nail in there and just stick a bit of cheese on the end of that one. Look at the size of these nails. They're deadly, aren't they?
Can I just say something, viewers? Do you like my hooters?
It's a bit breezy today, isn't it?
Cheese.
Piece of Parisian pasta salad. There you go. Can't please everybody, can you?
Where'd you go? Hello. Where are you? Where are you? Oh, there you are. I couldn't see you in there. Do a glamorous flick here.
This is a glamorous flick, viewers.
What's
I'm the haters. Come on, the haters. They're the best money almost paid.
This is Star's Parisian salad, prepared earlier, quite delectable, I have on good authority. And I was wondering whether you might like to try it yourself.
No, I'll pass. It's all right.
Sorry, Star, but I don't want any
pasta.
Show us your best asset.
I'm not. Do you think I'm that cheap? Do you think I'm that vulgar? Do you think I'm that tacky? How much money are you going to give me?
A couple of bucks.
Yeah, great. I've got a fantasy.
Okay, tell us your fantasy. You want to be bathed in salad?
No, won't. No. I have a fantasy, a really big muscle man to suck my toes.
Hey, I'm not sucking those toes.
Well, she's a shocking as well. They're not that bad, man.
Want some cheese for that?
Nobody. Who made that crap?
Stop. It's a provincial Parisian salad.
It's a load of crap.
Can I stop now?
Each week, MELfeed.video presents the CEC Report. The Citizens Electoral Council of Australia presents a weekly program of political and economic analysis with policy solutions which are aimed at saving Australia from economic collapse and also suggest ways in which interested members of the public can assist in their campaigns. The CEC Report, coming up next on MELfeed.video.
I didn't think this could happen in Toowoomba. And then I saw it on TV that night. It really opened my eyes.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different. But we have core values that are the same. They remain the same for any Lions member and any Lions club anywhere in not just Australia but around the world.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
I think Lions need to tell their story. They need to let people know the amazing things that they do.
The three major streams that we have in Lions are the community service that we do for the public, health and medical research, and the disaster relief.
We're out there to help people. If you love helping people, get out and help. Join a Lions Club.
We started this project about 20 years ago. All this gear would normally go to the tip. We recycle it and give it to someone less fortunate and where it is needed in the world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community. But most importantly, it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
Childhood cancer, I've always been interested in cancer and small children from the time I first got cancer 30 years ago. Research is an indefinite item. You can't see it, but it helps so much.
I'm here managing the money and the relationships, but other people are out there raising funds and bringing in community support. Without all of us working together, we can't affect change.
2 more extra hands at any function, any working bee, anything we do, 2 more hands can help us raise more funds, can help us serve our community better.
I went to my Lions Club
and I said, I got this idea and I think it's a little bit crazy, but I think we could raise some serious money doing it. And it was to run 100 kilometres. And the club said, okay, if you want to do this, whatever you need us to do, we'll be there 100%. And I'm pretty proud to say that together we raised just over $16,000. So we blew the target out of the water, and I think that was due to a lot of the support that I got.
Through my leadership training and all that, I've learned about thinking global, acting local, and Lions Club are definitely that kind of thing. They act within their communities, but the money that they raise can often end up in any corner of the world.
As an individual, I could only do so much, and whilst it was my burning desire to try and help these people, having an organisation such as the Lions family to call upon to support me and those people that were working with me just made it possible for us to achieve so much more.
You know, after the devastation, to come back into the community, you know, you were shattered by what you saw. You know, no police station, no post office, no petrol station, you know, no kindergarten. There was nothing here.
And all that water with an unstoppable.
I don't know that I've ever seen as much as arrived. There were fridges, washing machines, dryers. There was toasters, jugs, just everything.
To be invited to be a part of Lions just opened up a whole new world to me. A world that provided a structured organisation that could see that the hours that I volunteered could achieve so much more.
I think Lions is a wonderful organisation. The people in it have charity in their hearts.
I can go anywhere in this country, see somebody with a Lions badge, walk up to them and say, "G'day, you got a friend."
Never once in my life had I had a group of people where I could go to, say anything, and know that no matter what, they would be there, they would stand by me.
It's the family. That's what we call it. It's the Lions family. Without Lions, I think I'd be lost now because they've been my life.
We work hard, but the most important thing is we have fun.
The fellowship of all the members of the club, the broader community, it's just a tremendous organisation to belong to. You know, I'll be here till I die.
It is extremely rewarding and gratifying to be a part of an organisation that can spread its support so far and wide.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
I would encourage everyone just to give it a go and see if it is for them, because the return that you get for giving to others is amazing.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
Live streamed from Melbourne each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Welcome to the CEC Report for the 27th of July 2018. I'm Elisa Barwick. Joining me today is CEC Research Director Robert Barwick. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks, Elisa.
And on today's show we have, in a real crisis, Australia's banks face $750 billion wipeout, and trade war is a folly US and world needs economic cooperation.
Lisa, before we begin, it's Friday, so tomorrow is the Super Saturday of the 5 by-elections in Australia. And of course, we've been reporting here every week about Barry Mason's campaign as a CEC candidate in Perth for the Perth by-election. Whatever the result will be, we know this has been a great campaign we've run to really educate the Perth public on Glass-Steagall. So we'll see what happens, and next week we'll give people the highlights of that campaign.
Yep, lots of people have rallied to the push for Glass-Steagall, which is going to put a lot of pressure on the MPs. So we'll talk about that a bit in this segment. We're going to go through the APRA stress tests, I should say, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago on the show already. A showdown that's building between APRA and the Royal Commission, which is going to be fun. And also the big super rip-off that has just been exposed by the Royal Commission. So firstly, on the APRA stress tests, now Wayne Byers, the head of APRA, the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, announced the results of this stress test on the 11th of July, and it had occurred 6 months earlier, by the way. And Byers said that it proved that the banks were sound and would survive an economic downturn.
Byers, in saying this, picture the owners of the Titanic saying, "This ship is unsinkable." Picture that in your mind.
Exactly. So the APRA scenario, obviously they run a scenario to see what would be the result in a crisis. So they talked about a downturn in China, a closure of funding markets, a sell-off of the Australian dollar, and a blowout in credit spreads, the result of which they said would be a fall in GDP of 4% over 3 years, unemployment doubling to 11%, house prices declining 35% over 4 years, and they therefore estimate that the losses to the banking sector would be $40 billion. Now, 2 weeks ago, we showed a clip from Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics where he blew that apart and he said, no, look, you're going to be looking at closer to $310 billion. But we've now had an intervention by an economist we've also had on the show, John Adams, where he goes through that the result would be closer to losses of $745 billion. Can you map out how he arrives at that figure?
Okay, so John took issue with one of the assumptions in APRA's scenario, which is a 4% decline in GDP over 3 years. And the reason he takes issue with it is because he says APRA should be testing for a worst case scenario. And they kind of implied they did. But he pointed out, well, hang on, twice in Australian history, we have had economic downturns which have become depressions where instead of GDP falling by 4% over 3 years, it fell by 10% in 1 year. And that was in 1892 and in 1931. Now, he then makes the point that at the time of those depressions, household debt in Australia was lower then than it is today. And in fact, one of the Reserve Bank officials back in 2007 gave a speech saying, as of 2007, household debt was higher in Australia than it was in either of those two depressions. And of course, this is now 2018, where it's gone from back when the Reserve Bank official said it was 160% of income. It's now more than 190% of income, right? So he's making the point, look, you've got to compare these things because there's a real parallel here, and we've got much worse debt. So it's not a fictitious thing to compare because it actually did happen. And then the final point is that in 1892, Elisa, that particular depression, which was even deeper than the 1930s, was on the back of a crash of a property bubble. And our bubble today is bigger than then. So have a look at this chart on the screen, where the top line there, and all the figures relate to what APRA is claiming, that GDP has climbed up, it hits that peak, and then it goes down slowly over 4 years, and then comes back up again. And that's a little wave that APRA is testing for its Titanic. Our Titanic can survive this little wave. And John's pointing out, well, look at what happened. The deep downward dive is both 1931 and 1892. And then in the 1931 depression, it came up a bit faster than in 1892, which was a much deeper depression. He says, you stress test for those, with all the other parameters being the same, you're looking at $745 billion in losses. And that not only destroys all the bank's capital, but it destroys any ability of the government to rescue them in the form of bailouts and bail-ins. That's what we're facing.
And the result of that's obviously not going to be pretty, and you can see more about that in the Australian Alert Service, including the link to the original article by John. Now, the Royal Commission, they have their next phase beginning, the next round of hearings on the 6th of August in Melbourne, focusing on superannuation. APRA is going to be called to testify for the first time, so that'll be very interesting. Now, APRA just made a submission to the previous round of Royal Commission hearings in response to Commissioner Kenneth Hayne asking them to clarify the balance they try to keep between the interests of the banks and the borrower. So, of course, Wayne Byers came out with a very spirited defence of the banking industry, not the borrower. Now, he said this was an interesting definition that he gave of banking, actually, which sets the stage for what we'll discuss. He said a bank's business is to take money on deposits and make loans to generate a profit. So nothing about derivatives or speculation or anything like that. Then he goes on, as with other business, it seeks to maximise returns and minimise losses on its business operations. And he adds that the banks cannot take risks without prospect of an adequate return. And then in an 11th July speech, which was when he was actually launching the stress test at the Australian Business Economists event in Sydney, he then defended the bank's right to make a profit as part of its function.
Emphasis on the right.
It's right.
We have the right to life, property, etc. The banks have a right to a profit.
Have a right to make a profit, but then overlaid on that, he said, are a bank's prudential obligations to protect depositors and ultimately, which means, in the final case, financial stability, which is, of course, their number one priority in this period of financial crisis.
That's APRA's excuse for everything. We don't worry about what the banks do. We're only concerned about financial stability, and as long as they're profitable, they're stable, so we're happy.
And he went on in this speech to warn that bank customers should not expect to be bailed out of every failed business venture. He reinforced the concept of what is known as caveat emptor, which means let the buyer beware. And that basically means that if you're ripped off, it's your own fault. You should have known better.
Yeah, should have gone into it with your eyes open.
And he said consumers need to take more responsibility. He said it is important that the concept of caveat emptor remains in the system. He said regulators can't be everywhere overseeing everything. Of course, they're overseeing nothing. And he said it's important that the community understands that. And of course, he feels the need to express this because the Royal Commission's defending the victims here. They're defending their mandate is to look at the business or the bank activity that falls below, quote unquote, community standards and expectations. And of course, they're levelling that standard at every banker on the stand, demanding to know why these standards have fallen below that.
Lisa, this is quite extraordinary what Wayne Byers has done here, because what he said, his whole definition about banking, the thing is, he's not technically wrong. It's the kind of thing that doesn't need to be said. It's not about you have a right to make a profit. That's what business is. You make profits, right? That to raise that in the context of what's come out of the Royal Commission, right, where we are finally seeing criminality on a massive scale that was denied up until November last year by people who were actually covering it up. And anyone who gets to watch Four Corners that was just on Monday night about AMP is extraordinary. We were always, until November last year, we were hearing about the banks a lot, which is why we got the Royal Commission. But was anyone talking about AMP, right? But AMP, the vertical integration of AMP has allowed it to just become this this parasitical machine to loot every one of its customers on this enormous scale, including the dead ones, right, etc. That wasn't being talked about. If it wasn't for the Royal Commission, this wouldn't be known, and it would still be happening, right? Yet this jerk gets up and starts thinking, I've got to defend the banks. Caveat emptor has to remain. No, the problem is caveat emptor has what has ruled the system up until now. The banks and the financial institutions' attitude is, well, they're the ones that are choosing to do business with us, right? And this is where, in the investment banking sector, there's an expression that the investment banks have called "rip their faces off." And when investment banker says, "Oh, I ripped his face off," he's talking about the bank profiting from one of its own clients making a loss, right? And this is known You should have scores of police banging down the doors of these investment banks, arresting them wholesale for this kind of culture. No, it's an accepted part of the culture because we live in this social Darwinism, neoliberal era, right, where it's survival of the fittest, and that's what APRA has allowed to rule. But the problem is, in coming out and saying it now and reinforcing that, he's showing just how out of touch he is. And as you said, the Royal Commission was told in the terms of reference were lousy, but in those terms of reference it said, look into anything that falls below community standards and expectations. And that's allowed the Royal Commission to say, you know, forget justifying this. What does the average, to all these people understand, what does the average person think about this? And those bankers have had to squirm and go, yep, no, this is below community standards. And that's why it's all come out.
Now we've got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back to discuss more of the juicy details right after this.
Behind your favourite team, there's another team. At all levels, in all codes, sports trainers are working to make sport safer. Sports trainers learn injury prevention techniques from doctors and other health professionals so they can provide the right first aid when the going gets tough. If your team could do with a sports trainer, maybe it's time you got a little closer to the action. Find out how you can become a sports trainer. Sports Medicine Australia, providing the team behind the team.
Every minute.
Every hour.
Every mother and father.
Every sister and brother.
Every son and every daughter.
Everyone you see.
Everyone you cheer.
Everyone you watch.
And everyone you hear.
Everyone you meet.
Everyone you know.
Everyone you love.
Everyone is affected.
Reach out and get connected.
So how have things been going?
When a young person is diagnosed with cancer, it affects their family, their friends, their entire world. Red Kite supports young people with cancer and those around them in real ways.
Yeah, hi, it's Michael. Yeah, I'm at the hospital.
We rely on your generosity to make a positive difference in the lives of thousands of families every year. We can't always make things better, but with your help, we can lighten the load.
Welcome back to the CEC Report, where we're discussing the $750 billion potential wipeout that our banks are facing.
Elisa, before the break, we were talking about the bad culture of the banks, right, and just what's been exposed by the Royal Commission. And it's absolutely atrocious. And what people have to learn to understand is this term vertical integration. They have to equate it to evil when it comes to finance, because this structure of the banking system, and you've got some AFR quotes where they try and defend the structure again, they're defending this vertical integration, and that has allowed the banks just to become these machines to loot, fleece and milk their customers on a massive scale, right? If you want to see a prime example of just what the banks are feeling at the moment, right, as they should be, look at this ad. This is an ad that started playing. I saw it on TV last night, right? Just have a look at the ad and then let me say my piece afterwards.
There is always someone for each of us, they say, and you'll be my someone forever and a day. I could search the world over until my life is through, but I know I'll never find
Now, when I saw that ad, when it got to the funeral scene, they turn around and show all the moustaches. In my mind, and I think I said it out loud, I said, this better not be a bank ad, right? When they are turning on that kind of psychological manipulation, right, telling such a wonderful story, and then it ends with Westpac, one of these big four criminal operators, right? That is disgusting. We just had a meeting in the room here where we almost had to hand around vomit buckets, right? They are trying to rehabilitate their reputations, but you know what? It's not going to work. The public, I suspect, many of the public, any bank victim is going to see that and have the same reaction I did. If they think that's going to rehabilitate them, they're sinking their case by doing that type of thing.
Well, it shows how desperate actually they are, and that came through also in this article on 19th July in the Australian Financial Review, and they've run a number of pieces we've reported on the show where they keep saying, you know, this Royal Commission better not lead to something like Glass-Steagall. I mean, not always using those terms, but indicating that. So this latest defence of the banks from the Royal Commission praised the APRA submission to the Royal Commission that we just spoke about, saying it has done a public service by reminding us what the real purpose of banking actually is, which was the quote from Wayne Byers before.
So Wayne Byers, not the Royal Commission has done the public service, the guy who's defending the banks has done the public service.
And they went on to say that, you know, AFR defending the bankers, of course, the financial community, that our idea of banking is under siege by Royal Commission, which was pushed for by populists. They go through, you know, One Nation, Bob Katter, etc., that role there. They say it will just become much more difficult for banks to set risk or even function properly if customers are trained by the theatre element of the Hayne Commission to think that they can never lose out.
I really hope Kenneth Hayne is reading these kind of articles and to see them calling his commission theatre.
Yeah.
Right? He should rip them apart.
And it ended by reminding Kenneth Hayne of his terms of commission, saying that this is not a review into the role of banks in the economy or how the financial system should be most soundly structured.
And there it is. That's the issue there, because Bob Katter's bill destroys vertical integration. It should not be allowed. It should never have been allowed. It's a huge conflict of interest, and there's a bill in Parliament that Bob Katter introduced, Andrew Wilkie seconded, called Glass-Steagall, right, Banking Separation Bill. It will end it once and for all in the cleanest way. No politician has a leg to stand on to argue against it, actually, in the context of everything that's come out.
Now, we've got a couple of minutes to talk about superannuation quickly, and there was a 2010 APRA research paper which has been exposed in the media in the last week, which warned the regulator, it was an internal document which warned APRA that banks were overcharging super fund fees by 2.5 times more than market rates, which amounted to $700 billion more than overseas super funds charged over the last 20 years. And returns that were delivered from those funds were about half the rest of the market, half the amount. Dr. Wilson Tsai, who was a former APRA researcher, has also made a submission to the Productivities Inquiry into super, and he has said that APRA has worked against market transparency, prevented competition and facilitated the widespread gouging of funds. And rather than enforcing the law, APRA has sought to change it, thereby facilitating this kind of looting. So he was very blunt. Of course, you know, he worked for APRA, and of course they shut down the research department that did this 2010 paper. The other thing you might want to comment on is that the Australian reported that APRA is a victim of industry capture, i.e. it's a mouthpiece for the major banks, because 6 of the 9 executives that run APRA are former senior banking executives.
Elisa, that part there has been a big problem in the global banking system for a long time. There's this industry capture, or regulatory capture they call it. There's a revolving door between the banks and regulators. But in the case of Australia, the door is clogged. This revolving door is clogged with bankers, investment bankers, 6 of the 9. It's quite extraordinary. The idea that this was a regulator, this is a supervisor, this is there to protect us, oversee our interests. No, this is quite, you know, that this has come out. It's also extraordinary that it's the Australian newspaper in the last 2 weeks that it's gone to town on this super question, going after the banks and after APRA, because that's Murdoch. And Murdoch is the first in any kind of political environment to switch sides, right? So he's a staunch neoliberal, defender of the banks, defender of the Liberal Party. His own publication's doing this. That tells you there's a sense that the jig is up, right?
That's good news.
It is good news. What the banks have been able to do with super, unfortunately, this is why super was set up. so that the financial system could fleece it, and it's going to be the beginning of the end of big changes, and we'll have our own proposals for that too.
So don't forget to keep getting back to your Member of Parliament about whether he's going to support our Glass-Steagall.
Oh, and incidentally, because our Glass-Steagall bill stops banks from owning super funds, right? It fixes that as well. There's nothing in the financial system, almost nothing that's not fixed by our Glass-Steagall bill. Hammer your MPs on this.
Yep. We'll be right back right after this break.
It's always been my dream to represent Australia in the Olympics. Epilepsy affects nearly 250,000 Australians. Like me, most people have their seizures controlled with medication. Even today, people with epilepsy face incredible discrimination, but this prejudice is just another obstacle we can overcome. We're just as capable as anyone else, and often we have to be stronger. I promise I'll do my best for Australia. Will you do your best for me?
Playing the 80s on Air FM 88.0.
Hi, this is Darren McAlane from Air FM Drive. Join me from 3 to 6 p.m. every afternoon on 88.0 in Penrith, and also you can catch me on tunein.com. That's from 3 to 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Playing the 80s on Air FM 88.0.
Australian women need to kiss more. Watch out for persistent and unusual symptoms, as they could be a sign of ovarian cancer. Know the important signs and symptoms. Kiss. Look out for symptoms like abdominal or back pain, difficulty eating or feeling full quickly, or persistent bloating, or a change in toilet habits. If you're experiencing persistent and unusual symptoms for more than 14 days, see a GP. Make sure you kiss regularly.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motor car. Enjoy.
Welcome back to the CEC Report. Trade war is a folly. US and world needs economic cooperation. Now, after 3 announcements of various tariffs on Chinese imports into America, President Donald Trump has now started talking about tariffs on every single Chinese import, meaning all $505 billion worth. And of course, because China only imports $130 billion worth from the United States, there's no way that they could match that. So Trump's saying, look, you know, this is a war we can't lose. Yep. What our thesis is this is a war everyone will lose if it continues. China's investment into the United States has dropped 90% in the last 6 months. It's beginning to drop here in Australia, as people would know if they're watching the media. In the US, agriculture has been hit very hard by the retaliatory tariffs put in by China, and input costs, of course, because America brings so much from China and from overseas, costs of doing business, costs to consumers. Alcoa has just said that the tariffs could wipe out $100 million of their income this year. So it's having a big impact there. It's having a big impact on China. What we wanted to talk a little bit about was the difference between a protective tariff and a punitive tariff, because if you look at the state of destruction of US manufacturing, as you could look at here, what are you trying to protect?
No, exactly. The problem for Trump is he's been fed a crock by people with a real anti-China bias, and it's far beyond economic. Like people like Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, they're racist against China, and I don't like throwing that word around loosely, but Steve Bannon's talking about a 2,000-year war with China. Well, give us a break. Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad said China's been our neighbour for 2,000 years and we've never been scared of it. They've never invaded us, right? The Portuguese came and visited us once in the 1500s. Next year came back and invaded us, right? So China's a different culture and people got to stop hyping it. But the thing with the tariffs is we believe in tariffs, right? Tariffs are a very important thing, and a country should protect its industries, but with America, they've let so many industries go, right, that they're not, what Trump's tariffs aren't achieving anything. Trump would have been far better. He promised $1 trillion on infrastructure, right? If it would have been far better for Trump to revive America's industries by building $1 trillion worth of infrastructure or more. Other estimates were they needed $5 trillion. Cooperate with China to do that, who are the infrastructure experts in the world at the moment, right? But all those jobs in America, it would have increased the demand for steel and all these things Trump would have brought back. So just to do the tariffs as a punitive thing rather than government actions to revive American industrially with infrastructure is nuts.
Yeah, and Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labor opposition in the UK, had the right approach. He gave an excellent speech on the 24th of July to business leaders in Birmingham, and it was to launch his Build in Britain campaign. So he's also talking about protecting manufacturing and industry. But what he said is the approach that should be taken. He said Britain should have new government procurement rules to support our own industries. We need investment into infrastructure, investment in education and training, support for small and medium enterprises through a national investment bank and a network of regional development banks, and measures to get the dirty money out of the City of London and disincentivise financial speculation. And that's important because right now you've got the Chinese currency, the renminbi, devaluing, so you could end up with a currency war too. It's not China's fault. No. It's because the US dollar's going up, interest rates, but you also have $5 trillion a day of speculation in foreign exchange contracts, which occurs out of the City of London and Wall Street. And unless you stop that, you can't really control the price of trade because the price depends on currencies.
And our farmers have always experienced that. They'll finally have a good year, and then if the price of the crop isn't low, our currency will soar through the roof and take away the price anyway from them. This kind of manipulation happens all the time. Corbyn is right. What Corbyn's taking on is the vested interest in free trade, right? And saying, let's have real trade that actually benefits everybody. And just quickly, the city of Leicester in the UK turned around its financial fortunes by getting rid of this idea of compulsory competitive tendering, where anyone around the world was allowed to tender, and they said, no, we're going to procure locally. And that transformed that, and Corbyn's saying, let's do it for the whole of the UK.
And you can read more about that in the Australian Alert Service, including about how China's the only thing that's basically kept the world economy going since the 2008 GFC. With a new one coming, we can't cut that out.
Because it invested in real things.
So thanks for tuning in. That's all we've got time for. Thanks, Robbie. See you next week.
Hi, I'm Lane Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products, from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetark.org.
Hot water storage tanks can be a breeding ground for Legionnaire's disease bacteria. You can catch Legionnaire's disease by inhaling small droplets of infected water during showers or other activities. To prevent this from happening, you should never reduce the temperature setting. Tank temperature should be left as set by your plumber. Or eliminate the problem completely with a tankless gas hot water system. For more information, visit healthyhotwater.com.au.
Live streamed from Melbourne each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to order some pathology tests to see how everything's going.
Half the Australian population had a pathology test last year. That's you or someone you love. 100 tests are performed every minute, delivering vital medical information. From the moment you are born, your healthcare depends on pathology tests. 70% of medical decisions rely on information from pathology tests. Pathology is the engine room of healthcare. One small sample can reveal millions of insights all about you. Pathologists are your doctor's doctor. 25,000 people work to provide doctors with the answers they need to treat you. Australian pathology is world class. We may never meet you, but we see each of you as part of our family. Every minute, 23 Australians find out more about their health.
Good news, Sarah. The results show that everything's okay.
Pathology provides peace of mind.
I rely on Australian pathology.
Sign up online to support Australian pathology.
So, you think you're ready for this?
To take on the world? Why not?
We've all seen this one time or another. We may even have done it ourselves. But inhaling balloon gas is very dangerous and can be fatal. The helium in balloon gas acts as an asphyxiant, and when you inhale, it displaces the oxygen in your lungs. Balloon gas is safe in balloons and when you release it in a well-ventilated area and in a safe manner. So the next time you see some sucker about to inhale balloon gas, or you think it's going to be a laugh, stop and be gas-wise.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash, maybe even from heart disease, maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide. Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.